Baylen shares relationship advice, wants Colin to do what she says? In today's world of dating, relationships, and online content, there's no shortage of opinions, advice, and self-proclaimed experts offering guidance. One voice that has recently been gaining traction is Baylen, a popular content creator who isn't afraid to share her unfiltered thoughts on matters of the heart. Whether it's through her social media posts, podcasts, or YouTube videos, Baylen has made it clear that she's all about offering real, relatable advice, especially when it comes to relationships. One particular moment that has caught the attention of her followers and raised more than a few eyebrows came in a video where she offered a piece of relationship advice that seemed both simple and bold. Do what she says. This advice, of course, was directed at Colin, a longtime friend and collaborator who was going through a bit of a rough patch in his personal life. Baylen, never one to shy away from speaking her mind, decided to offer her perspective in the most straightforward manner possible. For context, Colin and Baylen's dynamic is one that many people enjoy watching. Their interactions are often lighthearted and filled with witty banter, making them a beloved duo among their fans. However, despite their close friendship, it's clear that Baylen doesn't hold back when it comes to offering advice, even if it means throwing out a bit of tough love. In this instance, she seemed particularly adamant about the idea that men, Colin included, should simply follow their partner's lead when it comes to relationship dynamics. Before diving into the heart of Baylen's advice, it's important to understand the context in which she made this statement. Relationship advice, especially when shared in the public eye, is always a bit of a double-edged sword. While some people look to influencers, friends, or family for wisdom and direction, others feel uncomfortable with the notion of having their personal lives dissected by outsiders. Colin, a somewhat private person when it comes to his romantic life, had opened up about some struggles he was facing in his relationship, seeking guidance from Baylen, a trusted friend who had been in her fair share of relationships. For Baylen, who has often been the one to offer advice to her audience, this moment felt like a natural extension of her online persona. She's made a name for herself by discussing the ins and outs of relationships, from dating in the modern world to navigating the tricky waters of communication, expectations, and compromise. With her bold personality and unapologetic approach, Baylen's advice can sometimes be blunt, but it's grounded in her belief that honesty is key to making any relationship work. When she told Colin to do what she says, she wasn't advocating for blind submission or encouraging an unhealthy dynamic. Rather, it seemed that Baylen was pointing to the idea of trust and mutual respect between partners. In her mind, relationships thrive when both parties listen to each other, respect each other's opinions, and most importantly, are willing to compromise. In a world where many people feel the pressure to play games or keep their guard up, Baylen's advice was a call to simply be honest and do what your partner asks when it comes from a place of genuine care and understanding. At its core, Baylen's advice wasn't about blindly following commands or surrendering to another person's every whim. It was more about fostering mutual respect and communication in a relationship. If one partner is expressing a need or desire, the other should be open to listening and responding with care. This concept can often be overlooked in today's fast-paced world, where people are quick to give advice based on surface-level observations rather than truly listening to what their partner is saying. What Baylen seems to be advocating for is a relationship dynamic that thrives on transparency and understanding. Relationships are built on compromise, and for many, that means being open to what the other person is asking for. Whether it's something as simple as planning a date night or something more significant like making a decision about the future, being willing to consider the other person's feelings and desires is key. By saying do what she says, Baylen was encouraging Colin, and by extension, her audience, to embrace the idea of being considerate and giving their partner the space to lead when necessary. Another key element of Baylen's advice is the role of trust in relationships. In any successful partnership, trust is foundational. Without it, communication becomes strained, and the relationship can start to unravel. By telling Colin to do what she says, Baylen was underscoring the importance of trusting one's partner and allowing them to take the lead in certain situations. Trust doesn't mean that one person should always be in control, nor does it imply that one partner's desires always take precedence. Instead, it's about a balance of power, recognizing that both partners should have an equal say in the relationship, and that sometimes one partner's preferences or ideas may be more fitting for the moment. Trust allows both parties to feel safe enough to express their thoughts and vulnerabilities without fear of judgment or rejection. Baylen's advice also highlights a shift toward healthier, more balanced relationship dynamics. In the past, traditional gender roles often dictated that men should lead in relationships, while women were expected to be more passive or deferential. In contrast, today's relationships are evolving toward more egalitarian structures, where both partners contribute equally to decision-making and share responsibilities in a way that suits their unique needs. In this new era of relationships, the idea of doing what she says isn't about following outdated gender expectations. Rather, it's about embracing the idea that both partners have equal value and input, and that one person's desires aren't necessarily more important than the other's. It's about creating a partnership where both individuals feel heard, respected, and supported in their choices. Ultimately, Baylen's advice to Colin isn't just about offering a quick fix to a relationship problem. It's about embracing authenticity in relationships. For Baylen, this means speaking from a place of honesty and vulnerability, not hiding behind superficial advice or idealized notions of love. Her straightforwardness, while sometimes jarring, is rooted in a genuine desire to help others cultivate healthy, fulfilling connections with the people they care about. In a world where relationship advice is often oversaturated with cookie-cutter solutions and cliches, Baylen's approach stands out as refreshingly real. Her advice might not be for everyone, but for many, it's exactly what they need to hear in order to navigate the complexities of love and companionship. Baylen's relationship advice to Colin, urging him to do what she says, is more than just a catchy phrase. It's a reminder of the importance of trust, communication, and mutual respect in relationships. While the advice may seem simple, its underlying message is powerful. Relationships require both parties to be open, to listen, and to make compromises. In the end, it's not about following orders, but about cultivating a partnership where both people feel valued and understood. And in a world where relationships can often be challenging, this kind of guidance might be exactly what some people need to hear. Boyfriend Colin pops a big question ahead of her move to Washington, D.C. Seriously? Baylen Dupree's boyfriend Colin pops a big question ahead of her move to Washington, D.C. Seriously? As Baylen Dupree packed her life into cardboard boxes and bubble wrap, the thought of moving to Washington, D.C. weighed heavily on her. It wasn't just the new job, the exciting career move that had her heart racing, but the changes it would bring to her personal life. It was a decision that would affect not just her, but those closest to her, namely, Colin, her boyfriend of almost 2 years. Colin had always been supportive of Baylen's dreams. From the moment they met at a mutual friend's party, something clicked between them. She was passionate and driven, a sharp contrast to his more easygoing nature. He admired her ambition and the way she carried herself with a quiet confidence that belied her youth. In turn, Baylen found in Colin someone who could balance her out, who could help her relax and laugh, and who made her feel grounded when everything around her seemed to be in motion. But now, with the upcoming move to Washington, D.C., things were different. Baylen's job offer was a huge opportunity, one she'd worked tirelessly for, and she couldn't turn it down. However, the move would take her far from Colin, who had settled comfortably into life in their hometown. The thought of a long-distance relationship wasn't something either of them had planned for, but Baylen knew that sometimes life threw curveballs that you had to hit. Still, she couldn't help but wonder how it would affect their relationship, the relationship that had been so effortless until now. The night before Baylen's departure, Colin invited her out to dinner at their favorite restaurant, a cozy little Italian spot on the edge of town. The place had been their go-to for special occasions, but tonight felt more significant than any other. There was an air of uncertainty between them, a quiet tension that neither of them could completely shake off. As they sat across from each other, Colin studied her face, his dark brown eyes filled with an unreadable expression. Baylen noticed the slight furrow in his brow, and the way his hand absently traced the rim of his wineglass, as if he were deep in thought. "So, have you packed everything?" Colin asked, his voice light, but tinged with something more serious. "Almost," Baylen replied, pushing her pasta around her plate. "It's been a mess, honestly. I didn't realize how much stuff I had until I started packing." Colin smiled faintly, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Well, you still got a couple of days. I'm sure you'll get it all sorted." Baylen nodded, though she could tell there was something he wasn't saying. She had known Colin long enough to recognize when he was holding something back. But instead of pressing him for an answer, she let the silence hang in the air, both of them lost in their own thoughts. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Colin set his wineglass down and leaned forward, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that made her stomach flutter. "Baylen, I've been thinking," he began, his voice low but steady. "I know this move to DC is important to you, and I know it's a huge opportunity, but I need to know where we stand." Baylen's heart skipped a beat. She had been dreading this moment, the one where Colin would voice the same concerns she had been grappling with. She had expected a conversation about how things would work long distance, or perhaps a discussion about whether their relationship could survive the distance. But she didn't expect what came next. "I don't want to lose you," Colin continued, his voice breaking slightly. "I can't imagine my life without you, Baylen. I love you. And I know it sounds crazy, but I've been thinking, maybe we should take the next step. Maybe it's time for us to commit to this, to make sure we're not just drifting apart." Baylen's breath caught in her throat. For a moment, everything around them seemed to fade, the noise of the restaurant, the chatter of other patrons, the clink of silverware on plates. All that mattered was Colin, his words, and the vulnerability that radiated from him. "Seriously?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "You want to take the next step, now?" Colin nodded, his eyes never leaving hers. "Yeah, I know it's sudden, but I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I love you, Baylen, and I want to make this work, no matter where you are. I don't want to wait around and wonder what could have been. I want to be with you. Always." Baylen felt a rush of emotion sweep over her. This was the moment she had both feared and hoped for. The moment when Colin would lay his cards on the table and reveal his true feelings. She had always known he cared deeply for her, but to hear him speak so openly, so honestly, made her realize just how much she meant to him. But her mind was racing, a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts. This was everything she wanted, wasn't it? Colin loved her, and he wanted to make it work. He was willing to commit, even if that meant navigating the challenges of a long-distance relationship. Yet, the weight of the decision still hung over her. Was she ready to take that leap? Was she willing to put her dreams and her future on the line for love? "I don't know, Colin," she said slowly, her voice laced with hesitation. "I've always thought that I'd need to focus on my career right now, that I couldn't let anything, anyone, distract me from that. But I don't want to lose you either." Colin reached across the table, taking her hand in his grip warm and firm. "I'm not asking you to choose between me and your dreams, Baylen. I just want to be a part of your future, however that looks. And if it means making it work long distance, then that's what we'll do. But I need to know that you want to try." Baylen looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity there, the vulnerability. This wasn't just a question about a relationship. It was a question about their future, about whether they could face the unknown together. Taking a deep breath, Baylen finally spoke, her voice filled with a quiet resolve. "I want to try, Colin. I want to see where this goes. Let's make it work." A relieved smile spread across Colin's face, and he squeezed her hand gently. "Then let's do this. Together." In that moment, as Baylen stared into Colin's eyes, she realized that this wasn't the end of something, it was the beginning. The beginning of a new chapter, one that would require patience, trust, and a whole lot of love. And for the first time in a long while, she felt ready to face whatever came next.